Hello my beautiful bumbles, it's me, the Julia Bee. Welcome back or welcome into the channel if you're new. How's your pets doing? Your dog, your cat, your ferret, hedgehog, parrot, iguana. How are they doing? Let me know. Give them a little kiss from me. Today we are doing my absolute favorite video of the year, which is a wrap-up video, is the wrap-up of the year, which is my best books of the year video. And listen, I don't hand out the best book lightly, okay? I'm very picky. I am very much a bitch who, like, I will say in the moment, oh yeah, this is gonna go on my best books of the year. And then I put that book down and I never think about it until the end of time. The book has to ruin me a little. It has to ruin me in a way that, like, I am sitting here thinking about it over a bowl of noodles and just go, wow, that book really freaking defiled me. You know what I'm saying? Like, think of it this way. The book has to be able to take out a 30-year mortgage in my brain. Okay? Okay. So for this year, my reading goal was 60 books because in years past, at least last year, I barely made my goal and it was a pretty small goal. The year before was about 200 books and I read 230. So yeah, I had to have a little come to Jesus meeting with myself about my goal for the year. So I have hit my goal, and out of those 60 books, I have picked the elite ones that I loved so very much to be on my best books of the year. Now we are going to do them in the order that I read them because I honestly can't really rank them. There is one book out of this elite stack that I would say reigns supreme over all of them, but as far as like tier ranking them on which one I love more than the other, I can't do that. I'm sorry, I can't do that. I cannot pick through these babies. That just seems hurtful and hateful, and I'm not here for that. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first book on my list, it just goes without saying because every single book that this author writes will be in my best books of the year. It's like by default. There is a placeholder, there is a seat reserved for her always, and that is the Veronica Speedwell series by Deanna Raybourn. So at the beginning of the year, A Grave Robbery released, right? Read it, loved it, on my best books of the year. And then I said, what if I read the entire series again? So that's exactly what I did. I started all the way over from the very beginning, and I have said this a million times. Curious Beginning and A Dangerous Collaboration are my favorite books in the series, if you couldn't tell. Like, and then A Grave Robbery came out and she said, oh, hello, I would like to enter the race. I would like to be a part of the conversation. And so she is also one of my best books of the year. This series is about Veronica Speedwell, who is a lepidopterist. She is a very progressive woman in her time, which is in the 1800s, the 1880s. And she is a butterfly hunter, and she has gone around the world. She basically keeps them for, you know, study, and publishes journals under a male name because a woman name in this field would not be listened to, of course. And one day her aunt dies, and after the funeral, her home is broken into, and a Baron von Stauffenbach comes and tells her that, you know, needs her to come with him. He has a secret that he needs to tell her and that she's in danger. And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm just like a lowly little butterfly hunter. Like, what do you mean? And he takes her to Revelstoke Templeton Vane, who is a taxidermist. And basically what ends up happening is they form this incredible freaking bond. Their banter is immaculate. They go on this wackadoo freaking adventures and shenanigans together. All ends in murder every single time. I love these books. I do have them tier ranked, which at the moment I couldn't even tell you what the tier ranking is, but there are books that stand supreme. These three, obviously. And then there are books that are a bit weaker in the series, but literally every single book in the series is 5 stars. Like, I don't even care. I don't even care if I was like bored throughout the whole thing. It's 5 stars because Veronica and Stoker, chef's kiss. The next book I read this year was a book that I was kind of like new to. It's like a new genre for me. I tried to challenge myself this year to not read so much smut. Not because I'm ashamed of that I'm a smut reader, not because I feel like that,
you're not intellectual if you read smut.
No, because I wanted to read something thought-provoking, and I wanted to read something really like groundbreaking, really like kind of blow my mind sort of thing. So I picked up I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman, and let me tell you, Gooped and Gagged, oh no, whatever the tier above Gooped and Gagged is, that was me. So this book is about 39 imprisoned women and one girl among them. It's a story of they are imprisoned in a bunker. Nobody knows why. Nobody knows when it happened. Nobody knows where it happened. They have no concept of time before being imprisoned because they seem to have forgotten where they came from and who they used to be. And they're just in this bunker living their lives. And they are taken care of by these male jailers. And they bring them food. They bring them like cloth to make clothing. They bring them medicine if they need it. But they're not allowed to touch each other. They're not allowed to talk to each other, really. They're not allowed to really do much except just exist in the cell. And again, nobody knows why. Some feel like in the beginning they remember maybe being experimented on, but they're never quite sure. And the men never speak to them, ever. All they know is the crack of a whip, which tells them that they're doing something bad. And it's gotten to the point now in this stage that when they hear the crack of the whip, they just know like to stop whatever they're doing. So one day, a big alarm goes off and their jailers go to unlock their cell and the key gets stuck in it. The men just run off and they're gone. The women take this as a sign to unlock the cell, obviously, and escape. But when they get out, the men are gone and there's no trace of anyone or anything outside this bunker. So it follows this girl who's she's like about a child at the time, maybe like preteen age, if I'm remembering correctly. It's exploring her growing up in a society with no men and growing up to figure out what happened and why they're where they are. It's fascinating. It's heartbreaking. This book really hit me because it makes you think about the concept of what would society be like if it was just one gender. And it also makes you think about like captivity, like growing up in captivity, growing up around people who did not grow up in captivity and never knowing what they're talking about. Any concept of like a car, a phone, or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like that type of concept. So very fascinating. Highly recommend. Truly just fucked me up. I did listen to the audio and I would recommend listening to the audio as well as reading it physically. I will say there are no chapters in the book. So it's literally just like page after page after page. And you can tell with the page breaks that there's like, it's kind of the start of a new chapter, but there are no chapters. It's just almost like someone's memoir and you are reading it from the point of view of this young girl. So highly recommend. Definitely get the audio. I Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. The next book that I read this year is an amazing book that I will never stop talking about, and that is My Husband by Maud Ventura. This book messed me up in the best way because there were multiple times during this book where I was like, oh.
Wait, is this fucking play about us?
Is this story about me? Is this play about me? Oh, I don't like that. This book is about a woman who is 40 years old. She is living like her best life, right? She's living a very affluent, wealthy life. She's in a pretty high social class. She's married. She has 2 kids. She's got it all. She's a teacher. You know what I'm saying? Like she's got that perfect American dream, even though it's like not set in America. It's set, I believe, in France. So she's just got like the best life she could possibly have. But here's the thing. She loves her husband, devoted to her husband, trad wife, if you will. She wants to do nothing but please him. But here's the thing. She is not so sure that he wants to do everything to please her. You know what I'm saying? So she likes to do some little tests. She is very obsessed with him and very obsessed with what he does. And she likes to test how much he actually loves her. And if he fails any of these tests, she punishes him accordingly, like not letting him kiss her, not letting him have sex with her, not letting him like do certain things with her. And those are her punishments. Oh, baby. The ride that we go on in this book, I have not shut up about this book since I read it at the beginning of the year. I read this book in February. It is now December and I have not shut up about this book. Anyone I talk to who's like, hey, do you know any good thrillers? Do you know any good like really weird wackadoo shenanigan books? This one, 5 stars, will never shut up about it. And when you get to the ending, like pick up this book, come back to this video, and you tell me how you felt about the ending. Better yet, if you've already read the book, tell me about the ending. Highly recommend this book. The next book I read this year is another thriller, which was a crazy freaking ride from start to finish, and that is They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. So let me tell you something about this. I did vlog this. I also vlogged reading My Husband, but I did vlog reading this. I was reading this on Kindle. No, I was listening to this audibly. I was at my job in the middle of my workday, just listening, just doing my little thing, doing work, obviously. And about halfway through the book, I had to stop and I had to sit back and I had to go, am I dumb? Did I miss something? So after work, I then had to drive 40 minutes
to a grocery store
to get this little mass market paperback of this book because I could not fathom not finishing it physically. Couldn't fathom it because this book is insane. This book is about Dr. Scarlett Clark, who is a professor at Gorman University. And every semester, whatever, she plots the demise of a student.
And speaking of red flags,
what? But one day she gets a little too carried away with one of her unalivings, shall we say. And so an investigation starts on the campus, and she has to basically put herself in the middle of the investigation so that no one figures out that it was her. Now, on the flip side of this book, we have another POV of a Carly who is like just got free of like her abusive father and is starting her freshman year of college. And she's, you know, trying to make friends and, you know, be buddies with like her dorm mate and things like that. Her best friend is assaulted, and she becomes very obsessed with making her best friends assault her, pay for it. It's a wild ride. When you get to the 50% mark of the book and the big freaking ball drops, it'll just alter your brain chemistry. It will alter your brain chemistry. This book is also fascinating, and it's also something of where the theme of it is, if anyone ever makes you feel uncomfortable, if anyone ever touches you without your permission, if anyone ever harms you in any way, harms someone that you care about, you run and you find somebody. Especially in a not community, but like in a demographic like this, where you are in a school setting and your teachers, your professors are supposed to be there to help you, and it feels like that they're not, and it feels like that they're not listening to you and that you're crazy. It is very fucking important that you do not listen to them and you find someone else who will help you. That was such a visceral takeaway for me from this book. Shit does happen. Horrible atrocities happen every single day. It's not taken seriously because women are not taken seriously, and I find that foul. I find that vile and disgusting, and this book really explores that. I will say that at the end of the book, there was just one thing that kind of cheapened the story for me personally. Still best book of the year. Did not change my thoughts on that at all. I just felt like that little last detail could have just been like left out because it just didn't need to be there. But anyway, highly recommend this book. The next book I read is another thriller, and it's a pretty like well-known, not classic, but it's a pretty well-known mainstream thriller, and that is The Housemaid by Freida McFadden, as well as A Housemaid's Secret by Freida McFadden. I have ranted about Freida McFadden before. I have also raved about Freida McFadden before. We can all agree that Freida is not like the most stellarly written writer out there, okay? She pumps out a book every freaking 5 minutes, okay? And are they always Pulitzer Prizes? Well, no. But do you have a good time when you read them?
Well, yes.
I would say that you do. So The Housemaid, yeah, she did that. Housemaid's Secret, yeah, she did that. The third and fourth book, we don't know her. We don't know her here. No, baby. So this is about a woman named Millie who is hired to clean the wealthy Winchester home. Not only clean, but take care of their child, get her to and from school, make her meals, all that sort of thing. And one day, her employer just goes batshit freaking crazy, okay? Like absolutely insane. Like she notices that the wife will just make up lies about her daughter. She'll make a mess right in front of Millie after she's just done cleaning up, and she'll make her clean it up in front of her. And her husband just seems like a broken husk of a man. Like he's watching his wife, and she's just some high-strung freaking crazy Karen woman, and he and Millie kind of like bond a little bit over that, and just like how she is just like how she is. Notices that like because she's living in the Winchester home, she notices that there's a lock on her door that only locks from the outside. Oh. But there's a little secret. There's a little secret that Millie's keeping, is that the Winchesters, they don't know who she is or what she can do. I'm sorry. What? This book was phenomenal. At no point in the story did I know where it was going. And when I got to the end, my jaw was on the floor. My jaw was on the absolute floor. Did it need a sequel? No. Absolutely not. It did not need a sequel. But this book was so great because in this book, I had no idea where we were going at any freaking point in this book. When I tell you that these were such a good time, like this was one of my first introductions to Freida McFadden. I think the only other one I read by her was One by One, and that was not great. But this, I see why everyone talks about this. And a lot of people say that this is a ripoff of The Maid by another author, which I have not read, so I cannot attest to whether or not that's true or not. I just know that this is also getting a movie, and I'm pretty sure Anne Hathaway is playing in it. Or maybe that's Verity. Maybe I'm getting mixed up with Verity. Regardless, doesn't matter. I'm sat. I will be sat in that theater, and I will pretend that I don't know what's going on. I surely do, but I'm going to pretend that I surely don't. Okay. The next book I read is a kind of new genre for me because I have never really been interested or really known much about Studio Ghibli type of stories or like Eastern style stories, and that is Watermoon by Samantha Soto Yombao. This book was gorgeous. This book was fantastic, and this book was so unexpected expected from me, and I'm very happy to say that I loved it so very much that it had to be on one of my best books of the year. This story is about a woman who inherits a pawn shop in Tokyo, and there's something a little different about this pawn shop. Some people will see the pawn shop. Some people will see a cozy ramen restaurant. When they walk through the door, they're either going to walk into her pawn shop or they're going to walk in to get some yummy tasty noodles in a bowl. Okay, the thing is about the pawn shop is you only see it if you're lost, or if you've lost something that you're looking for, and it's where you can sell regrets. And basically it's the idea of the regret is that you're selling the magic or the power of that regret. And on the very first morning of her owning the pawn shop, Hana Ishikawa, she wakes up and she discovers that her shop has been ransacked and her father is missing. And she's like, what the hell could have happened? And in walks a stranger, a physicist named Kai. I think it's Kaishin. He stumbles in and he helps her. And because she's so upset, he's like, please let me help you. Like, where do we need to go to find your father? Because the world that they are in currently is magic, he goes on this journey with her and blinks no eyes. It is so fascinating. I felt like I was in a movie. I felt like I was in one of those like paper books, those flip books you had like when you were a child, something like that. I loved this so much. And it is a beautiful story about grief and loss and regret. And it's not even that it was cozy. I would say that this really was pretty dark, especially near the end, and it did get a little steamy at points, and I was very shocked. So very much recommend this book for anyone who wants to like delve into books like this, or just who wants a really beautiful, lyrical, poetic time. Like, I really loved this. The next book is a book that I feel like everyone and their mother is talking about. At least everyone in my circle of people is talking about, and has been talking about all freaking year long. And it's crazy that this book came out end of last year, and I was just now reading it this year. Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews. Listen. How do I explain this book? You want to read something poetic? You want to read something absolutely lyrically stunning? Do you want to read something so dark, foreboding, disgusting, vile that you just are like gripped and can't fucking run away? This book follows Andrew and Thomas, who go to Wickwood Academy for school, and Andrew's sister Dove. The year before, there was some accident that happened that no one really wants to talk about involving Andrew and Thomas. And over the summer, Andrew really missed Thomas, but he didn't hear from him. And when he gets back to school, he's very concerned that Thomas is not going to want to speak to him, but you're not really sure why. Dove and his father are also arguing, and she really doesn't want to speak to him either. So he's left kind of isolated until he sees Thomas and realizes that, oh, everything seems to be fine. But is it? Thomas is very much into artwork, and Andrew is very much into writing. And as the story progresses, you see that Thomas really doesn't have any interest in his art, and he very much is closed off from Andrew, and he doesn't want to talk to him about it. And then one night, Thomas has blood all over him, and he doesn't look so fucking good. And you discover that Thomas's artwork has actually come to life. This is a fantastic story. This is a beautiful story with ace representation, which I very much love. This is a beautiful story about friendship, as well as what it means to love somebody so fiercely that you would do anything for them. Would you die for them? Would you kill for them? It is a horror for sure, but it is the best horror I think I've ever freaking read. The prose is stunning. The characters, amazing. The plot, phenomenal. 10 out of 10, no notes. I loved this book so very much. And the writing is so well done in a way that you literally feel like you're in the forest. You feel like you're in Wickwood Academy. I don't know how this author did it. I don't know what drugs they are taking to have their brain be this big, but they did that. They friggin' did that, and I loved it. The next book is actually very near and dear to my heart because it is the reason that I now have such an incredible, amazing group of friends, because it led to the creation of a readathon called Sunrise on the Readathon, which was put together by Katie Colson. And you all have heard me talk about Katie many, many times on this channel, but this book brought all of us together doing the readathon. Readathon was such a massive, beautiful, fantastic success, and I am so incredibly fucking proud of her and everyone who helped with that readathon. It is responsible for bringing me together with all these incredible people that I love so very much, and that is Sunrise on the Reaping. This beautifully tragic, dark, horrible book. I first read The Hunger Games last year for the very first time, and then I reread them this year when this book released. There are so many things I could say about this book. This book follows the 50th Hunger Games, which is the games of Haymitch. You don't remember who Haymitch is? He was the lovely, drunk man who was Peeta and Katniss's trainer. You get to see how different the games were back then because it was a quarter quell and there were double the amount of tributes that were selected for the 50th games versus Katniss's games. So you get to see the differences of and the different atrocities of how the games were performed back then. What's crazy about this book is that not only like does it follow Haymitch, obviously, but when you look at this book and you look at all of the other books and the movies, Suzanne Collins, like, do you just have a cork board with like labels and like string? Do you have that like weird conspiracy board? Do you have that in your house? Because the way that if you watch the movies and then read this book, there are so many things that just make sense. You read the other books and then read this, it's just like it's crazy to me how much emotion went into those movies put on a screen, and now I'm able to sit there and look at them and I'm like, oh my god, that's why Haymitch is the way he is from a movie when y'all didn't even know that this existed yet.
I really can't handle another time like this. This is a dark time.
The hell? What sorcery did you put into this book? This book is very sad because of course we all know how it ends. We know that Haymitch doesn't get a happily ever after. To see that written down and to read about it and read about what happened is just broke my heart and soul. But I loved this so very much. Highly recommend. I am in the middle of reading this again because I'm rereading it for my Hunger Games vlog, which now is close to a year in the making.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Yeah, I hate myself. I hate myself a lot right now. Highly recommend this book. The movie is coming out next year in November, and when I tell you that I am chomping at the bit for it. Speaking of Katie Coulson, the next book is in her honor because what in the hell kind of crack cocaine was in this story? Bunny by Mona Awad. This is a horror thriller. I was humbled this year. I was humbled because I have been subscribed to Katie's channel for several years now, and I never understood Smut Salon, Duchess, Darling, Queen Bunny, none of it. Never understood. Didn't understand why. I would like to say that my eyes have been opened to the cult, and I am now a full-fledged member of said cult. I am indoctrinated. Absolutely. This book is about Samantha, who is a graduate student at New England college, and she is a fiction writer. So she's in a fiction writing cohort with a bunch of other girls known as the Bunnies. And one day she receives an invitation to their Smut Salon club, and her friend Ava are kind of the eclectic alternate goth girlies who like they don't need anybody and you know they're not like other girls sort of thing. So when she receives this invitation to the Smut Salon, her friend Ava is like,
Girl, we don't sit with them. They can't sit with us and we don't sit with them, okay?
Samantha plunges head deep into this world. She drinks the Kool-Aid, okay, heavily, and she finds herself in the midst of being a bunny. It goes about as well as you would expect. I don't know how to like really properly explain this book because you would have to read it to understand. You need to know several things about this. Number one, you're probably not going to like this book. And I say that because a lot of people seem to not like this book. Number two, you probably, maybe, will love this book. Yes. Does that make sense? No, because it doesn't make sense. You have to read the book to understand it. You have to like listen to the audiobook to also understand it. You have to read this book 10 fucking times to understand what's going on. I just remember that I was reading this book, sending Katie a bunch of voice notes, and then I got the arc for We Love You Bunny, which is the sequel to this. And I was sending her and Kat, our friend Kat, a bunch of voice notes as well. I was losing my mind. I lost my ever-loving mind. But I loved this book so much because no one person is going to have the same theory about what is going on in this story. And that's what's so fun about reading it with a group of people and talking about it with the Smut Salon. And you can talk about it until you're blue in the face, but there's still some ambiguity about what's going on. Now, Mona Awad has said for sure of certain things that are happening in the book, which I won't spoil for you. You can figure that out for yourself. There also is a Reddit about this book for you to go and read some of the theories that might help you after you've read it for the first time. But I do highly recommend you give it a go because it is just a crazy freaking ride to go on. The next book is a book that I have not shut the fuck up about since I read it. I have forced many people to read this book, and many people have read this book. Terror at the Gates by Scarlett St. Clair. So I buddy read this with a lot of people, mainly with my friend Cassie. This author is an auto-buy author for me every freaking time. The Touch of Darkness series, favorite series of all time. Favorite series of all time. Her fairy tale series, it's up there. It's up there. This, oh baby. Oh baby. This book is like if Touch of Darkness and Crescent City had a baby, had a love child. And I'm all about it. So this story follows Lilith, Leviathan, who is estranged from her very powerful, wealthy family. And she is kind of under the protection of Zahariv, who is the head of the Zareth family. Basically, think about this as like a mafia romance. It's like if a mafia romance, Crescent City and Touch of Darkness had a baby. So he's the head of a big influential family, and she lives in his city instead of in her father's city. One night, Lilith, who likes to collect things that don't belong to her, she collects this dagger which has this weird like energy. She pawns it to this man, who then ends up dead with his eye sockets oozing out onto the floor.
And
And so Zahariv, because it's in his district, wants to investigate it, and he tells Lilith, "You're not going to help me do this." And Lilith's like,
F you, I'm gonna do what the hell I want.
there is a lot of religious undertone to this book, because if you know the story of Lilith, you know that like where that's founded from, you know, Garden of Eden, God, all those things. The story of Lilith is fascinating, and that's what this follows, is learning the truth about the world that they live in and the church system that basically runs them. Because in this world, women have magic, men don't. But that does not mean that women are powerful, and that does not mean that they are held to a higher standard. That actually means that they are used as cattle, whatever, for the men's game. Sound familiar? Sure it does. So it's really fascinating to read about this, because for me specifically, being a Wiccan, but knowing from my own background of growing up in a religious household, just the fundamentals of this and seeing it like written out and seeing the trauma of it, of how it's affected me personally, is crazy. But it also was very fascinating, because I always have been interested in like the biblical stories and like what was supposed to be, you know, things like that. Highly recommend this book. Now, with the caveat, I always have a caveat with Scarlett Sinclair, because I love her writing, love her stories, love everything about what she does. But there were moments in the story where I was like, that was kind of like a weak passage, or like, oh, that was kind of like not the right story. Like, you know what I'm saying? She's not going to win a Pulitzer Prize, okay? But they're so good. They're just so good. They're like the trash, you know, they're like eating potato chips. You're sitting on the couch eating potato chips and you're just having a good time. That's what I love her for, because I feel like I don't have to freaking think when I'm reading her books. I can just have a good time, and it always ends up being 5 stars for me. So like I said, Touch of Darkness, Crescent City, Mafia, had a love child, had a little polycule, and made this book. The next book is a bit of an interesting choice for me, but I could not put it on the list because I did have such a good time, and it's new for me. And that is Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. How do I explain this? So this book is hilarious because it's basically a action lit RPG in book form. All of my gamer girlies in the chat, you're gonna understand this, and if you're not a gamer girly, you might not get this one. But this follows Carl, who is just the most himbo man you've ever met in your life. One day, he goes outside to find his cat, Princess Donut, and he hears this big commotion, and basically like a big sinkhole opens, and he hears this voice in his head telling him that he needs to go down into the sinkhole and participate in the Galactic Games or something. And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And the worst part is, the cat isn't even his. It's his ex-girlfriend's. So Carl takes him and Princess Donut down into this sinkhole where he is going to participate in basically what I would describe as a Dungeons and Dragons sort of game, but it's Fallout and Borderlands cyberpunk-esque. Yeah, I think that's what covers it. This is such a hilarious time because the story starts with him he starts to get like levels. He starts to get loot boxes. He gets like a little, basically a pit boy is what I feel like it is, for him to see like his statuses, his quest, like where he's supposed to be going, a map, his inventory. It's freaking wild. And I didn't think I would have as good of a time as I did, but the audiobook is hilarious. And you might like be going through it and you're like, why is Carl the most like heterosexual man I've ever read about in my life? That's the point. He is 100% all himbo man. And the goal of this is to survive. He needs to make it down into the levels. So it's basically a level system of like, this is level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He needs to make it down the levels to win. Problem is that the levels obviously get harder and harder, and there's a time limit on when he can even get to the level to descend. And there are monsters and other creatures and other players who are out to win as well and out to kill him. It's a crazy time. I really love it. If you're a gamer, you'll love it. If you're not a gamer, you might still love it. I feel like that you really are gonna have to listen to the audiobook because it definitely reads and sounds like a video game. And I just love it so very much. The next book that I read that I had to go on my best books of the year because I ranted and raved about this freaking book is We used to live here by Marcus Cleaver. So funny story about this. I actually met Marcus in Indiana for a event. I think it was the Books and Brews event. It was a really fun time. He's a very lovely man, but he wrote this incredible, crazy story, and I don't even know how to explain it to you. So let's just jump right into it. So a young queer couple named Charlie and Eve, who flip houses, buy a house in this town, and they can't like believe the killer deal they've gotten. Eve one day is working on the house alone by herself. Charlie's gone into town, where there's a knock on the door, and she opens it, and a man is standing there with his wife and his 3 children, and he said, "Hey, I used to live here. Would you mind if we came in and looked around so I could show my family where I grew up?" What? And Eve, who is a people pleaser, which I cannot relate, lets them in to the house. Girl, what are you doing letting some weird crusty dusty people in your house for? I mean, what? So Charlie comes home, and then as soon as they kind of like sit down to dinner, the youngest daughter goes missing in the basement. And the family's like, well, we're not going to go look for her, because if we go look for her, that'll just encourage her to be down there. So we're just going to ignore her and just sit around this house that isn't ours and take up your time and, you know, overstay our welcome and, you know, be a general nuisance to the society. So they overstay their welcome into the night, into the morning even, because they can't start their vehicle, and I think they get snowed in. So the next morning, Eve wakes up and Charlie is missing, and she can't get a hold of her. The family doesn't seem to know where she went. And then, to top matters all off, things start going weird in the house. Pictures start moving. A window is replaced. Things don't seem to be in the same place they were when she woke up that morning. How odd. This book really was fascinating, to the point where I am not a note-taking type of bitch. I'm not a person who really like delves into the text too much to read between the lines. When I tell you I have a notebook with many pages of scribbles, I look like a mad woman. I look like a woman who went on a psychotic bender for 3 days. There's an entire community of people who have an entire subreddit of this book. So once you finish reading this book, you go to the subreddit and you find fellow weirdos like you who make a spreadsheet about the color blue and how many times it shows up in the text. And that's the craziest thing, is that not one person is gonna have, again, the same theory. Kind of like how Bunny is. Not one person is gonna have the same theory as you on what the fuck is happening in this book. And I think that's wonderful. And I think that's freaking insane. Usually I don't love stories that are really ambiguous, but this book, I fuck with her. The next book is a cute little read that I cannot stop gushing about, and that is Someone You Can Build a Nest In by John Wiswell. And John Wiswell, I'm speaking directly to you. You are a man. You are of the male presenting gender, and you wrote this book.
What a sexy surprise.
Color me Gooch Gag. This book was adorable. This book follows Secession, which is a creature who can take on the form of anything as long as she has human flesh. And basically she is coming out of hibernation and is very freaking hungry. And these people stumble onto her cave, lair, whatever you want to call it, and they've come to kill her, but they don't actually know what she is. They don't realize that she is a secession creature and not whatever it is that they're hunting. And what follows is this really crazy, cute adventure for her to still stay under the radar and get the food that she needs while being hunted by these people. And there is romance along the way, and there is a really beautiful asexual representation in this book, and I loved it so much. It was tender and it was weird in the best way. It was like giving me like a creepy little weird blob hug. I just really liked it. And it was a horror book as well, so there were definitely parts that it was like, huh, ew, but cute. I loved the story of it. I loved the different take on it as well. It wasn't fae, it wasn't dragons, it wasn't, you know, whatever. It was something very different, and I've never read anything like that before. It also definitely explores themes of like found family, which to me, I really enjoyed. It had to go on my best books of the year. The next book needs no introduction because of course I read this book. Of course I read the sequel to one of the other best books of the year, and that is Hazelthorn by C.G. Joyce. Here's the thing about this. So Don't Let the Forest In, fantastic, wonderful, 10 out of 10, no notes. I got the arc for Hazelthorn, and I was a little trepidatious because sequels never seem to live up to their predecessor, just never. And so I was very scared that I had way too high expectations going into this book and that I was going to be sorely disappointed. When I tell you that this book exceeded my expectations and then some, I'm not being hyperbolic. So this book follows Evander, who inherits a gothic estate where the reclusive billionaire who owns it has just died. And in this estate is the billionaire's nephew, Laurie, who Evander and Laurie, nemesis. Nemesis. This looks like that they get along, they don't. Fighting, bickering, the whole shebang. And you're not quite sure why. But the thing about the reclusive billionaire's death is it seems very odd. He just suddenly died like what looked like poison because he had blood coming out of all of his orifices and then dropped dead. Not really the greatest for a young person to see, but there you have it. Plus, Evander has been basically locked up in the estate his entire life, and he seems to be ill. He has to go through a lot of procedures, he needs a lot of medications, and he seems to not be the greatest health-wise. But there's just something very strange about it because the person who's been taking care of him his whole life, not only the billionaire, but the billionaire's butler, has gone missing. And so Evander is very confused, especially when he learns that the entire estate has gone to him. What? Not Lori? Not any of the billionaire's other relatives? So something is very weird here. And because Evander is only, I think, 17 years old, clearly he cannot take on this estate on his own. And he is on the spectrum. He is an autistic boy who doesn't know really how to control his emotions, and he doesn't know about the outside world because he's never been outside. So this is very overwhelming for him and very overstimulating for him, and he doesn't have any help except for this billionaire's lawyer who really doesn't seem to be in it for Evander. What we do begin to see is that the estate's garden seems to be becoming out of control and growing into the estate itself. And so once again, we're thrust into a story with lots of foliage and moss and creepy crawlies and darkness and dank and musk, and it's just I love it. It's so incredible. And my expectations were exceeded because how dare you write a sequel that I feel like is almost better than the first book? How do you do that? What big brain energy do you have that you're just able to do that? I loved it. And it wasn't like it was the same characters. It wasn't like it was even the same type of theme. It was very different, but still with the same almost setting in a way and the feel of it. And I loved it. Highly recommend it. I don't think this one has ace representation this time around, but it does neurodivergent representation, and I appreciated that very much. So yes, if you loved Don't Let the Forest In, definitely give Hazelthorne a try. I promise you will not be disappointed because the sequel definitely lives up to its predecessor. And my dears, we have come to the very last book on my best books of the year list. I know this was actually a pretty big list of books. Usually I narrow it down, but I felt like I couldn't even narrow this list down because all of these I have thought about since the beginning of the year. But yes, the last book on the list is The Will of the Many by James Islington. No one is more shocked than I that I love this book. This is a sci-fi fantasy story. It's dense, it's thought-provoking, it's intellectual, it's got twists and turns and curves that I didn't even freaking see coming. And I gave it 5 stars, and I read the sequel and also gave it 5 stars. This also is a massive political story, and I loved it. There was no smut. No romance? Who is she? This book follows Viz, who orphaned after an accident 3 years prior to the beginning of the book. And one night, a man comes to the prison where he's working to speak to a prisoner who's in a sapper, which basically is like a machine that takes your will, which is kind of the magic of this world. And a sapper basically drains you of all of that will and leaves you like this emotionless husk. So he's come to talk to a prisoner. Something happens while he's down talking to the prisoner where Viz touches the sapper. And when you touch a sapper, something should happen. You should be affected in some way, and Viz doesn't seem to be affected, which sparks this man's little noggin of like, something isn't right here. So the next night he comes to the orphanage where Viz is living, and it wants to adopt him because he needs him to infiltrate the academy, Katenin Republic's most prestigious school. And he wants him to do that so he can figure out the murder of his brother. And Viz is like, okay, but what's in it for me? And he's like, well, not only will you be adopted by one of the most, powerful, like influential people in the Republic, but you also, if you graduate from the school, you will be granted any advantage you want in life and be able to assimilate into the hierarchy and get like any position that you want and live out your days that way. And Viz is like, will this fit into my own secret plans? Yes, I think it will. Okay, sign me up. In the beginning of the story, part 1 was like really freaking slow. I was bored out of my freaking skull. And I didn't understand a lot of the things because some of the characterization of Viz is that he's like this 17-year-old boy who seems to know way more than he should and seems to kind of be like a Gary Stu character. And I just can't with Gary Stu characters or Mary Stu characters, but it kind of doesn't matter in the end because it keeps the plot keeps going and things keep happening. And you just are constantly being hit with things that you're like, wait, what is this? Why is this happening? Where are we going? Who is this? Like this book is what Onyx Storm like could have tried to be with, it's political machinations. I'm just saying. I really enjoyed this. I really also enjoyed Strength of the Few because it expounded on that, and it was all gas, no breaks for the entire freaking book because we didn't have to slog through part 1 in its slowness. I know a lot of people put this on their best book of the year, and if this like book doesn't like go more viral than it already has, I'll be very surprised because I feel like people ate this up when they read it. I really do. And that is it, Bumbles. That is my entire stack of my best books of the year. I had a really good reading year, I have to say. I was even thinking like, oh, I'm not gonna have to do a worst books of the year this year, but actually on reflection. So you may be asking, what was my crown jewel? What was my magnum opus? What was the one that I would say was my best book of the year out of all these books? And I sat and I thought about it, and honestly, I have to give it up to my husband. I do. This book was my best book of the year. She wins. Flowers for her. I have not stopped thinking about this book since I read it. And it's such an unassuming little story. But I think what really got me was this twist at the end. The twist at the end is what made me love this book and why I have not shut up about it. I present Her. And that wraps it up. I'm honestly so proud that I hit my reading goal this year because I really barely did it last year, and I definitely almost barely did it this year. I just love how much like joy and healing that reading has brought back into my life over the past few years. How much more it has given me. It's given me like community, it's given me friendship, it's given me this channel, and it also has given me like the passion and the drive to like start writing my own book again, which I started this year. If you haven't watched that video, I'll put it up above. But tell me your favorite book down below. Let me know what your best books of the year were. Let me know what your favorite book of the year was. I would love to hear about it. Let me know what your reading stats were if you want. I would just love to see them. I will be filming my worst books of the year, don't you worry, because there are books we got to talk about in that video, I'm telling you. Thank you guys so very much for being here. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more videos from me, hit that subscribe button. I'll be here all week, baby. I love you guys. Mwah. Bye.